The most dangerous person in any room is rarely the one who knows too little. It's the one who doesn't know how little they know. Think about the last time someone gave you directions with total confidence and led you completely the wrong way. They weren't lying. They believed every word. That's what makes this so unsettling. Picture a first date. One person spends the whole night explaining wine. Which region is superior, which vintage is overrated, why the restaurant's pairing is technically wrong. They sound like a sommelier. They read one article last week. Meanwhile, across town, an actual sommelier is at a different table, quietly asking the waiter a question about a bottle she's never tried. She has spent 15 years studying wine, and she's still checking her assumptions. Who would you trust more if you didn't know their backgrounds? Most people would pick the confident one. Almost every time, they'd pick wrong. You've sat across from that first person before, in meetings, at parties, in group chats. Someone speaking with total certainty about something they barely understand. And somewhere in your own life, without realizing it, you've probably been that person too. Why does confidence attach itself so strongly to the people who've earned it the least? Let's watch this happen in real time, somewhere ordinary. Imagine you just downloaded a budgeting app and read 2 articles about investing. Within a week, you're convinced you understand the stock market. You start explaining index funds to your parents. You feel a little embarrassed for anyone who hasn't figured this out yet. It seems simple. Buy low, sell high. Why is this hard for people? 3 months later, you experience your first real market dip. Suddenly, the simple rules don't feel simple anymore. You learn about volatility, timing risk, tax implications, the difference between a paper gain and a realized one. The more you learn, the more you realize how much you didn't know at the start. Here's what's strange. You are now, undeniably, more informed than you were in week 1. And yet you feel far less certain giving advice than you did back then. Why would gaining real knowledge make you feel less confident, not more? This exact gap was measured directly, and it has a name: the Dunning-Kruger effect. In 1999, psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger, working at Cornell University, tested people on logical reasoning, grammar, and humor. Afterward, they asked each participant to guess how their score compared to everyone else's. The results were almost eerie in their consistency. People who scored near the bottom estimated themselves as above average. People who scored near the top, the ones who were actually excellent, tended to slightly underestimate themselves. Why does this happen? The mechanism comes down to something researchers call a dual burden. Judging your own performance in any skill requires the same knowledge that performing the skill well requires. If you don't have that knowledge yet, you're missing 2 things at once: the ability itself and the ability to notice you're missing the ability. It's like being asked to spot your own typos in a language you haven't learned yet. You can't see the mistake because seeing it requires exactly the skill you don't have. Now compare that to real expertise. The deeper someone goes into a subject, the more they discover how much complexity, nuance, and disagreement exists underneath the surface. That awareness tends to make genuinely skilled people more cautious, not less. This connects to work by Daniel Kahneman, who spent years studying the difference between fast, automatic judgments and slow, effortful reasoning. Confidence born from Dunning-Kruger almost always comes from that fast system. It gives an instant answer without ever routing through the slower process that would actually check whether the answer holds up. There's a related concept from research on expert intuition by Gary Klein, who studied how experienced professionals, like firefighters and nurses, develop fast pattern recognition that looks like snap judgment but is actually built on thousands of hours of real feedback. That's a very different kind of confidence. It's earned through correction, not assumed through inexperience. The beginner's confidence and the expert's confidence can look identical from the outside. Only one of them has been tested against reality. Does this only apply to strangers over-explaining wine or investing? It doesn't. Here's where it turns personal. Because this bias doesn't stay contained to one subject. It follows you across every single topic you've never deeply studied. Consider how often you formed a strong opinion on a documentary, a diet trend, a political policy, or a parenting method after a single video or article. That opinion probably felt solid, complete, obvious, even. Now think about a topic where you actually have real expertise, years of it. Notice how much more careful, how much more it depends. Your thinking becomes there. That contrast is the whole effect, playing out inside one person. Everyone is confidently uninformed about something, all day, every day, without a single alarm going off to warn them. Here's the counterintuitive twist. You'd expect highly accomplished people to be immune. Often, it's the opposite. Success in one field creates a general feeling of being right, which quietly leaks into unrelated fields. A brilliant scientist certain they understand economics. A successful entrepreneur positive they understand nutrition. The confidence transfers even when the competence never does. So, is there a way out? Dunning and Kruger's later research found something genuinely encouraging. When low-scoring participants received even a small amount of targeted training, their self-assessments corrected almost immediately. Learning doesn't only add skill, it repairs the very instrument used to measure that skill. That's the core insight underneath all of this. Confidence is not evidence of accuracy. Sometimes it's the opposite. The feeling of being right and the fact of being right run on two separate tracks, and your brain will rarely tell you when those tracks have split apart. So here's something concrete you can do with this. The next time you feel completely certain about something outside your actual experience, treat that certainty itself as a signal. Ask yourself what someone who's spent a decade on this would immediately question. Ask what evidence, if you found it, would change your mind. That one habit, asking what would prove you wrong, is often the entire gap between the loudest voice in the room and the most reliable one. The most dangerous person in any room is rarely the one who knows too little. It's the one who's never stopped to ask whether they do. If this changed the way you'll listen the next time someone speaks with total certainty, stick around. There's a lot more going on behind your own thinking than it ever lets on.